All right, this lesson is about transportation. So let's talk about driving first. To get a driving license, you have to be 16 years old. Here in BC, we have the graduated system. So that means you have to pass the knowledge test first. After you pass the knowledge test, you'll get your L license. And after the L license, you have to spend 1 year practicing. And after 1 year, you can then take a road test to get your N license, which is the Class 7 license. During the time that you have the N license, there are certain restrictions in place. For example, you are not allowed to have any alcohol in your system at all. You can only be carrying one passenger. That's one passenger that is not a licensed driver. One passenger maximum. After 2 years of having an N and having a safe driving record, then you're able to take another road test, after which, if you pass it, you will have your full license, that is your Class 5 license. So that's kind of the process. The advice that I would have for you in terms of getting through that process is to, first of all, make sure you study for the written test to get your learner's license, because that written test can be challenging for some people. And also practice as much as possible in all different kinds of situations. The biggest problem that people learning to drive have is that they don't practice enough. And so when it comes time for the road test, what I always find is that on the road test, you drive much worse than you do on a normal day. So your driving on a normal day has to be super good, because when it comes time for the test, you're nervous and the pressure's on and everything, and you're gonna drive much worse than your usual. So your usual has to be much higher than it otherwise would be. Other licenses that are out there that you can get, I think you have to get your Class 5 first, but then there's other classes. So Class 1 is for driving semi-trailers. That's a commercial license. Class 2 is to drive buses if you want to work for TransLink. Class 3 is other kind of large trucks, like things like dump trucks and stuff like that. So not the big semi where you have like the cab attached to this huge rig at the back, but just kind of all-in-one kind of trucks like that. Class 4 is for things like taxi, limo, ride-hail, ambulance, other kind of commercial type vehicles. Class 5 is the normal one that you'll be getting, and with that one you can drive a car, most kinds of trucks like pickup trucks and stuff like that, but also like small like cube van kind of trucks, you can also drive those. Vans, RV, so although it depends on like how big the RV is, but just a regular size RV should be fine, and scooters. And then for Class 6, that is your motorcycle license. And that is another graduated system where you have to get a learner's first for a written test, and then you have an N, and then you can finally get your full license after that. Owning a vehicle. Okay, so first you're going to have to somehow acquire a vehicle. So you can get a vehicle new from dealerships usually, pointing out that there are rebates for electric cars, and the fact that our society is going in the direction of electric cars. So by 2035, so in 12 years time, gas cars will no longer be sold at dealerships, although like the old ones will still be on the road. But if you are purchasing a new vehicle, I would suggest considering electric. Other things to consider if you are buying a gas car would be your gas mileage, how efficient that car is, the number of seats, the trunk space, all different kinds of things that you should look at. Or you could buy a used car. So used car would be from places like Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, Craigslist. Those kind of places will have the listings for used cars. And when you're looking at used cars, you should look at things like, has this car been in an accident? What does the tire look like? Are there any like fluids leaking out of it? Is there rust on the body? So those are things to kind of consider when you're buying a used car. Used car obviously is going to be much more cheaper than buying a new car. So depending on new car minimum is probably close to $20,000, whereas used car you can buy for under $1,000, maybe over $1,000, under $2,000 for sure, used cars. But obviously, it can go up from there, right? So depending on what car you want, cars can be upwards of 100,000 and more, right? Even used cars, if it's like a nice and not too old one, can get pretty expensive. Let's talk about insurance. So everybody, to be a licensed vehicle on the road, you need to have insurance. So the basic insurance is from ICBC. That's your Insurance Corporation of British Columbia, ICBC. So that's mandatory for everyone. And what does that cover? That covers the medical costs for people who are injured if there should be an accident, and vehicle damage if you are not at fault. So somebody crashed into you, then and they don't have insurance or something, then ICBC basic insurance will cover that. On top of the basic insurance, there's the collision and comprehensive. So both of those are options. For collision, it covers the vehicle damage if you are at fault. So if you crash into someone, basic insurance is not going to cover it. You have to pay that cost yourself. But with collision, then if you are at fault, you caused the accident, then the insurance will pay for it. And then there's comprehensive, which is non-collision damage. So that's your theft and vandalism, and a tree fell on your car, or your car was in an earthquake or whatever. All those other kind of things that can cause damage to your car, covered under comprehensive. So I didn't mention it there, but for collision and comprehensive, usually there's something called a deductible. And so if the damage that you have to pay is less than a certain amount, then the insurance doesn't kick in. You'll have to cover it. You'll have to pay for it yourself. And only if it's above a certain amount, then then the insurance will pay for it. So for example, say, I don't know, somebody scratched your car and the damage was like $200 to get it repainted or something. If your deductible is $500, then the insurance will not pay for it. You have to pay for it yourself. And so the deductible can be higher or lower depending on how much you want to pay for your insurance premium. Insurance can be purchased at any insurance broker. And depending on a lot of things, I would guess somewhere between $1,500 to $5,000 a year. And that depends on your driving record, your age, your vehicle, which optional coverages you get. The more optional coverages you get, and the lower the deductible, then the more you'll have to pay. I mentioned collision and comprehensive, but there's other options as well that you can get. Driving record, so there is a discount for how many years of accident-free driving that you've had. And so every additional year of accident-free, you get, 5% off or something like that. And so if you have up to 9 years, I think is the maximum of no accidents, then it's 45% off your insurance. Your age, so young people have a much higher insurance rate than older people, because I guess ICBC believes that young people are at a higher risk to get in accidents. The vehicle, so more expensive vehicles are going to be more expensive to insure, because for them to pay to replace that vehicle, it's going to be more, right? So all those kind of things can affect how much you are paying for insurance. Gas, how much you pay for gas depends on your tank size and also your mileage, and also how you're driving. City driving, you're going to use up much more gas than highway driving. At today's prices, it will cost you somewhere between $100 and $200 to fill up your gas tank. Maybe if you have a very small car, it may be less than $100. And so how far does that get you? Well, it depends on those things, but somewhere between 300 and 600 kilometers. So obviously, the more kilometers you drive, the more you'll have to fill up your gas tank with gas. Just some things to keep in your car, some things to have on hand. Snow tires. If you are driving in snow, definitely need snow tires. Emergency kit, especially if you're on a road trip, especially if you get stuck on the highway at night in the snow or something, what kind of things would you need? And so whether it's like water, food, emergency blankets, shovel or something. So all those things are necessary. If you're just driving around the city in daytime, that might not be as necessary, because if you get stuck, you can just call home or something like that and get bailed out. But yeah, more for road trips and stuff like that. snow brush or scraper or both, jumper cables, booster pack, tire inflator, tire pressure gauge. I think I have a picture of a few of these things, so let's look into that. There's your booster pack. So if your battery dies, you have to open up the hood of your car and connect those two clamps to your battery, and well, the red one to your battery, the black one clamps onto the frame of your car, and then that acts as a temporary battery so that you can start your car, and then after you start your car, the car will recharge your battery by itself. So this is really handy. This is kind of a new type of thing that's just come out in the last I don't know, 10 years, and so it's really handy. I have one myself. An alternative are these are jumper cables, and so basically it solves the same problem that you have a dead battery in your car, but instead of having a temporary battery, you need another car's battery, and so you attach one end to the other car and one end to your car, and then that should start your car using that other car's batteries. This is a tire inflator or air compressor, I guess. And that will just plug into the 12-volt electrical slot in your glove compartment or your dashboard, and that is what powers it. And then you're able to pump up your tire if you have a little bit of a low air in your tire or something like that. This is good. Other options for pumping up your tires: some gas stations have air that you can compressed air that you can pump up your tires easily, or some people have a compressor at home where they can do that as well. And that's a tire pressure gauge. So if you're running, your tires are a little bit flat, not enough air, or if they're overinflated, both of those are bad for the efficiency of the car, and also wears out your tires more quickly than usual. So you should check your tire pressure every once in a while. Make sure that it is within the recommended tire pressure, which should be written on your tire somewhere. Things to watch out for: things like leaks. So things that are liquid that is leaking out of your car, that's usually a bad sign, especially if it's somewhere under the hood or under the body of the car. So there's all different kinds of liquids in your car, and so you should take a look and see what is actually leaking out, and that could be trouble if it is something important. Tire pressure, we already talked about. Weird noises, smells. So that is like signs that things can be wrong, or handling, if the steering's a little bit weird or stuff like that. So those are signs to watch out for. You might have to take it to your mechanic. Overheating as well. So if your radiator or cooling system is not working properly, then that is bad news for your car. Things that you should know how to do with your car. These kind of things do come up from time to time. How to jump a dead battery. So I already mentioned about the two different ways that you can do that, either with the jumper cables and another car, or with that kind of booster pack thing. And all you have to do is open up your hood. So that's something that you need to know how to do, is open your hood. And sometimes the battery has a cover on it. Take off that cover. The battery on your car should have a positive and negative marked on it, plus and minus. You connect the red thing to the positive, and the negative you leave alone, but the black cable on your booster pack or jumper cables, attach it to a metal part of the frame of your car, and then after that you can start your car. Hopefully it should start at that point, and then you can disconnect it and away you go. Make sure you drive around for a while to let the alternator recharge your battery. How to change a tire. So of course, if you drive with a nail or whatever, you can get a flat tire, and so you should know how to change your tire. You should in fact know where your spare tire on your car is. So it depends on the car. Sometimes it's in the floor somewhere, sometimes it's in the trunk or wherever. Usually it will have an emergency jack attached to it, and also a lug nut kind of remover thing, a lug wrench, I guess. And so what you need to do is remove that spare tire, jack up your car. So you put the jack under where the tire is that you want to change, and jack it up. And then you have to unbolt the current tire using the lug wrench, remove that tire, put the new tire on, tighten up the bolts or the nuts, and then unjack the car, so let it back down, and then away you go. And the first place that you should go is probably to a mechanic or somewhere that can change your tire, and so that you can because that spare tire is not made for like long-term use. So those are things that you should know how to do. If you're not sure how to do those things, then you should figure it out before you start driving around. Probably while during that time that you have your learner's license, one of the things that you should learn is basically this. If you don't know how to do this, there is always roadside assistance. And so roadside assistance is a service that you can purchase. Usually there's a yearly annual fee of some kind, and you can call them and say, my car won't start, have a dead battery, or I got a flat tire or something, or other things like I'm locked out of my car, or I need to be towed to the nearest mechanic or something like that, and they will come and do that. So there's a lot of companies that offer it. There, you can buy it from, I don't know, you can buy it from Costco, or like some credit cards have it as part of their service. The main and most well-known one, I think, is BCAA, which stands for British Columbia Automobile Association, and they offer this kind of service. I don't know, it's $100 a year or something like that, and they will just come and help you out when you are stuck at the side of the road. What about repairs and maintenance? Okay, well, where should you go? So the dealer has a service center attached to it usually, and so depending on what company has manufactured your car, so if your car is a Honda, you can always go to the Honda service center and they will service your car. If your car is a Ford, you can go to the Ford dealership, they will service your car, etc. So there are service centers there, or you can go to independent mechanics. So just a little mechanic garage at wherever in the neighborhood, and so those are good. They'll take any car basically, I think. And then the other one is chains. So you have your places like Mr. Lube, or places like that that are kind of they have these specific services that they offer. And so how do you know what to do? Well, in your owner's manual, there should be a schedule how often you should do certain things. Generally, oil change is the most frequent service that you will need to do, and that should be every 6 months or so, or every, I don't know, 5,000 kilometers, something like that. It'll have the details in your manual. It might be different for different cars. Other things that come up from time to time: brakes need to be changed, like brake pads need to be replaced every once in a while, and your brake rotors might need to be remachined or replaced every once in a while. So what do I mean every once in a while? Maybe every 3 years, I'm guessing, something like that. Transmission will need to be replaced every 10 years. Some of the belts in your car might need to be replaced every once in a while. Oh, batteries will last anywhere from 3 to 5 years, and so that will need to be replaced eventually. That's an easy one. You can do it yourself. You just basically unbolt the battery, take it out, put the new one in. So that's a pretty easy one, but your mechanic can also do it for you. What else can go wrong? Windshield wipers should be replaced every year or so. Sometimes you need to replace your, say, air conditioning, what do you call that stuff? Refrigerant. And so that is something that you might need to do from time to time. So there's lots of things that come up now and then. And also, if there's leaks and stuff, those need to be fixed, obviously. Let's move on to talk about another topic, bikes. So another mode of transportation. Obviously, you probably know a bit more about bikes than cars. There's different prices and styles of bikes. It varies a lot. You can buy a bike for under $100 and goes all the way up to $5,000 plus. Could be many thousands of dollars for a bike. There's also e-bikes, anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. And so that just makes it easier for you to go up hills, gives you a little bit of assist as you're going up the hills. I want to talk about bike theft, though. That's a pretty common thing that happens in the city here. So make sure you lock up your bike if you're going to leave it anywhere outside. In my lifetime, I've had 7 bikes stolen from me, and so I know that problem very well. I never leave my bike unattended. Bike parts tend to wear out much more quickly than car parts. And so brake pads, tires, chains, cassettes, bottom brackets, all of these have to be replaced regularly. And by regularly, I mean, every couple thousand kilometers, you probably have to replace a bunch of those things. So if you are riding quite a bit like me, like I ride to commute to work, and so every year I'm putting, thousands of kilometers on my bike, and so I have to pay a bunch of money to replace all these parts every year or so. Sharing. So there are different car share companies. Evo and Moto are the ones that are in this area. And then bike share, there is the Mobi bike share. You've probably seen it around. And then finally, transit, another mode of transportation. And so, of course, in Vancouver, we have TransLink as our main transit provider. You have concession pass because you are students. Once you are an adult, you're paying adult fares unless you're going to a university or college or something like that. And usually they have something called UPass system where you pay for each term. Your Compass card will link to that, and it basically pays for your bus for that term. For SkyTrain, there's 3 zones. Zone 1 is Vancouver, Zone 2, Burnaby, Richmond, and North Van, and Zone 3 is Surrey and Coquitlam. And so depending on which zones you're going to, you have to pay more. Like if you're going through more zones, you have to pay more, obviously. For buses, everything is just one zone, so you don't have to worry about that. So bus all one zone. There's various ways that you can pay for transit. You can get a monthly pass. That's the cheapest way if you're commuting every day. You can load money onto your card and then you're paying the single fare every time you go. You can pay with your credit card or you can pay with cash. So those are the ways that you can kind of pay for your transit. Some workplaces will actually subsidize transit, so they will, pay for half your monthly pass every month or something like that as a way to encourage you to take transit. So that's a nice perk if you are at a place like that. All right, so that covers most of the modes of transportation, I think. And so everybody has to get around one way or another. So hopefully that was useful and interesting. And so that's all for this lesson, and we'll see you in the next one.